I'm going to start, as Muslims do, by praising Allah. Ila alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'd. Indeed, all praises is due to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His aid, and we seek His forgiveness. We seek aid in Allah from the evils around us and from the evils within our own selves. And whomsoever Allah guides, no one can misguide. And whomsoever Allah misguides, there is no one to guide. And I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah. He has no partner. And that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is his last slave and messenger. To proceed, I'd like to greet you all with the Islamic greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Any non-Muslims here, I give my sincere greetings, and I hope that you do enjoy seeing me rambling on for the next half an hour or so. But hopefully, inshallah, it'll be beneficial, not just to yourself, but for me also. Ladies and gentlemen, currently we are facing a crisis. Currently we are facing a crisis. There's an epidemic, not only nationwide, but globally. But nationwide, the stats are shocking. Social disorder, social decay, binge drinking on the rise, people being drunk and disorderly. You have suicide rates rising higher year by year. You have depression increasing. In the UK, actually, not just the UK, it furthers out in all of Great Britain, Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. With regards to Scotland, 1 in 10 Scots are taking medication for depression. 1 in 10. In the UK and England, 3 out of 5 people are depressed. 3 out of 5 people are depressed. And it's getting so high, and it's getting so out of control that it's costing the government every year £9 billion. £9 billion to treat the people of depression in the UK. And the statistic shows that in the next 50 years or so, that the biggest killer will be depression. And this is not just with the adults, ladies and gentlemen, no. This is going to our children. In Scotland, 1 out of 5 Scots young, from ranging between 14 to 16, are depressed. And The Guardian reported that every year, over 4,000 children, going up to the age of 14, could be younger than that, commit suicide. And the most common form is by hanging themselves from their bedroom. So, people are not happy. And it's showing, due to whatever lifestyle that they're living in, whether it be liberalism, capitalism, or any type of ism. It's official that people are unhappy and that they're depressed. However, there has been a newfound search for peace and tranquility amongst the nation. Not long ago, The Independent, The Guardian, and The Sun, and The Mirror reported that between 10,000 to 100,000 people or finding this so-called way of life that gives them that peace and tranquility that they so sorely needed when it was void in their old lifestyles. And this way of life, ladies and gentlemen, is Islam. And myself, I'm from amongst those statistics. I'm from amongst those 10 to 100,000 people that came, read about Islam, searched for the truth, and accepted it. Me, myself, I came from a Christianity background. Not just a Christianity background, actually, my family were, you could say, from missionaries. Their purpose was to spread the message of Christ. That was their purpose. They're not just in the UK, but all over the world. I had family in America, Canada, all going to different parts in the world, spreading the message of Christ. Now, me being raised up, I wasn't the most religious of people at all. I knew that, that I had Christianity as a background, but I didn't really take it seriously. When I was young, I would go to church with my nan. I would do Sunday school in the same old routine that you would do when you're young. But then when I had a decision, because at a certain age you don't really have a decision, you have to go. But when I had a decision, okay, now do you want to go to church or no? And I did what you find many teenagers do, which was mess about, go clubs, different women, drinking alcohol, be with people that take drugs, and just wasting my life away. And it started at a young age. It started at a young age. And when I was doing all of these stuff, I always used to get told by my nan or my aunts, etc., you need to come back to the church, you need to start fixing up your life, and you need to turn to Christ, you need to stop messing about with yourself, etc. And I always used to just, shrug it off. And my mother and my father, they separated when I was young, so I didn't really have a father figure as much, but I still seen him. But even those two, they weren't practicing. So that was more of an influence for me, and more encouragement for me not to practice Christianity, even though the rest of my family were. However, there was a certain time in my life which really shook me up, and that was the time where my father's mother passed away, my grandma. And she was very close to me, and that really, really did upset me, brought me down. And I was thinking to myself, even though I was young at the time and my grandma was old, but I was thinking to myself, well, yeah, death happens, it's for real, and who knows, it could happen to me. So that really shook me up, and that's where I was thinking for quite a lot of the time. Until I decided that I would actually start being a practicing Christian. If I was going to be good, and if I was going to go back to God, then I was going to go back to the religion that I was raised upon, which was Christianity. So I went to my aunt, and I said, yes, I want to dedicate my life to Christ now. And they were shouting and screaming, hallelujah, yes, this is good, etc. And even though both sides of my family were practicing Christian, they're from different denominations. So denominations means like different sects or varies that you could say. So my mother's side were Baptist, my father's side were Pentecostal. The Pentecostal are the more loud ones, the more hardcore ones, the more missionary movement type Christians that you usually find back in my home country, which is Jamaica. There's a lot of them there. So I became one of them, and I started being a member of the church. And I used to go to school. I used to go to a Church of England school, Bluecoat. However, ironically, being a Church of England school, I had a lot of Muslim friends. Now, when I was not practicing Christianity, everything was fine, because they wasn't really practicing Islam at the same time either. So it was just knowing each other through personality-wise, and nothing really, any religious discussion was just taboo. We just never spoke about it. However, when I became a practicing Christian, I started to take things seriously. I started to have an outlook of life seriously, until I realized that, oh no, my friends aren't Christians, so I better save them, or they're going to be in the fire. They're gonna die, or and they're gonna eternally burn in hell. So I used to tell my friends about Christianity, etc., and then they would tell me any limited knowledge of what they had about Islam. And I was intrigued, even though I had an arrogant front on at the time. I wasn't like I was searching for Islam when they was telling me about Islam. I just wanted to know their mistakes so I could just show them where they were wrong. And when they would actually tell me about Islam, and when I would actually look into different books regarding Islam, whether it be libraries or internet, etc., I couldn't find something hardcore or concrete that was fundamentally wrong about it. And this was kind of frustrating because I wanted to show them where they were going wrong, but I couldn't. However, I still persisted in my ways of becoming, being steadfast in Christianity. Now, I used to go to my aunt regularly for Bible class. This was in the middle of the week. And these conversations between me and my friends were always exchanging. And I would always bring any doubts that I had to my aunt. And my aunt, whenever I used to bring a question to her, at first she was patient, but then each week the questions were getting harder. And since the questions were getting harder for her to answer, she became less patient. And because she became less patient, it was difficult for me to get the answers what I was looking for. So when I would ask her, okay, aunt, Muslims, they believe in this same, prophets that we do, but they don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. Because yeah, that's a bad thing. And goes, but I mean, is it really? Because Adam never had a mother or or son, or father. But he's known as a prophet. So why can't we just look at Jesus as a miracle, just like Adam was? Where are you coming out with all of these questions for? Just believe Jesus died as the Son of God, and you'll be fine, and you'll be all right. Don't confuse your head with so much. Confuse your head with so much gobbledygook. Don't let them brainwash you. Or you'll end up like them. So I had like a fear factor on me that if I was to search for the truth, then I'll be just brainwashed. But I wasn't. I didn't like just blind following. Rather, I always, if I was to be convinced about something, it had to be convinced from the books and also logically and rationally as well, that it makes sense. And from the books, I could see in the Bible that there was a lot of contradictions and mistakes amongst all versions, and as well as that, logically, it wasn't making sense. And actually, I kind of became disheartened. I was actually kind of upset because the religion that I was raised upon wasn't making sense to me, and it felt like I was going back to square one. Okay, I want to do something for you, God, but I'm not on the way of, it doesn't seem like it, that it's making sense, so what should I do? And time was going on until I decided to stop calling myself a Christian. I didn't disbelieve in it then when I stopped calling myself a Christian. However, I didn't like the feeling of hypocrisy, calling myself a Christian, yet having some doubts. So I would say I'll just call myself a truth seeker. I'll just be a truth seeker. Whatever I see that makes sense and that I'm going to look at, I'll take it with a pinch of salt if it makes sense, and I'll accept it. And I used to go to church on and off, so it wasn't regularly like it used to. Now, me, at the time, being a truth seeker, I was being exposed to a lot more things than I had done when I was more steadfast on Christianity. As well as a lot more people was coming to me, telling me about Islam. One that came to mind was a person that lived not long ago, not far away from me, and I used to work at a grocery store, And he always used to talk to me, or, what's the purpose of life? Are we here for fun or games, or is it for a purpose? Is it to worship the one that created you? And he used to come with all these theological and philosophical questions. And I'm thinking, where's he coming from? But when I would call myself a truth seeker, and obviously a lot of things came into my heart, it clicked. And he would tell me about the miracles of the prophets, including the miracle of the Quran from the last and final Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and also other things. And I used to see books randomly at a place where I wouldn't find books. I used to go to my cousins who were staunch Christians, and then they would have something about Islam there, for example. And I would go, why you got a book about Islam? Because, I'm just searching. They were doing what I was doing back when I thought I could get the Muslims become Christian, trying to find out if there was any mistakes. But obviously I was open-minded then, so when I was reading it, it was making sense. Also, in regards to me being a truth seeker, etc., I used to see a lot of things on the TV that was always making sense regarding Islam, that fit the paradigm shift that I wanted to be a part of. So, months went by where I was still calling myself a truth seeker, and I just wasn't there yet. I knew Islam made sense. I started looking into other religions as well, just in case, just to be on the safe side. So I looked at Judaism for a little bit, and I looked through other way of life, but Islam made the most sense to me. And there was one particular day where I live, where I live was across from a big, massive field. And I'd always just go there and just walk off and just think or ponder, etc. Or if I'd have a tantrum with my mum, being a teenager at that time, then I'd just walk off and just huff and puff and just be alone with myself, walking out on the field. But at this particular time, I was just walking on the field, pondering to myself. And I made a certain supplication, which I know now is called dua in Islam. This is a supplication where you're pleading to your Lord on anything that you want. And this supplication, I said, "Oh Creator, God, Allah, whatever you call yourself, just show me the true way of life, because I don't want to be confused anymore." So I made that supplication, and then I went home. And when I went home, my mum told me to clean the spare bedroom because I had relatives coming over at that particular time. So I goes, okay, I'll clean the spare bedroom. And when I was cleaning through the spare bedroom, and I was unraveling, cloths and clothes and sheets, etc., I found a Quran lying in front of me. It's the first time I've seen a Quran. I've seen material on Islam, but I've not seen the Quran. So not only is it the first time I've seen the Quran in my house, it's the first time I've seen the Quran, period. And it was big, it was white, it was, it had, gold on it as well. It was beautiful. And it really, really shook me, because obviously I immediately remembered my supplication. And my connection with God was always very personal. Even when I was a Christian, I would always plead to God. I never used to ask Jesus for anything, because my logic, even being a Christian, I was thinking, okay, well, I believe Jesus is the Son of God, but still, God is the Father, so I might as well go directly to the Father, because He's more capable of doing more than what the Son can do. So that was just my logic anyway, even as a Christian. So when I made that supplication, and then when I see in the Quran, I was like, whoa, right, okay. I don't know if I was ready for you to answer it now, but okay, you answered it. I mean, I'm seeing something. What should I do? So I'm looking through it, and then there it has the chapter called Al-Fatiha, which is the opening, which is the chapter that Muslims recite over 17 times a day, minimum. And then the next chapter, Al-Baqarah, which is chapter of the cow, where it says, Alif Lam Mim, Alif Lam Mim, this is the book, where there is no doubt, a guidance to those who are muttaqeen, those who are pious, those who are steadfast. So I was reading this, and I was thinking, wow, who can come out with words like these? Strong words and bold words like the Quran was coming out with. It shook me apart. Because I'm used to, in the Bible, reading, and God does this. And Jesus then said unto God, and then God, but it's direct, straight. All you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, Ya ayyuhan nas, all mankind. It's direct from your Lord, from the Creator to the creation. So the words were powerful that it shook me by my core, and my heart was beating fast. Again, I'm going on into the same chapter. And if they are in doubt, verses 23 to 24, if they are in doubt of this book being from other than Allah, or if they are in doubt of this book being from God, then produce a similar chapter like it thereof. But if they cannot, and they will not, then prepare for the torment that awaits them. So again, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, who can come out saying, oh yeah, they can and they will not as well. You know, who can come out with such bold statements like this, except for the one who has the right to be bold and the right to be proud, which is our Creator. So I kept on reading it, and as time went by, I kept on seeing this guy that kept on visiting me at work all the time, talking to me and explaining things about Islam. And then he started going on more about Islam. I would knock on different doors in different masajids. Unfortunately, though, they didn't know English too well. So they said, okay, no English, go around it. I goes, okay, thank you. And they would give me books, etc. But I think I already had my answer, and I just needed to be pushed. And it wasn't until the brother that was giving me dawah, that was telling me about Islam, he says, why don't you join the family? Why don't you join Success? Because me coming from a non-Muslim background, and I'm sure many other converts probably may tell you that when you think that when you become a Muslim, or where you are a Muslim, you think that you have to do some ritual, that you have to jump through a fire hoop or something similar to that, or you just have to take simple steps. And when I took those simple steps, which was the Shahada, which was the declaration of faith, I felt weight lifted off my shoulders, and I felt so light and so peaceful. And I finally got the tranquility that I so sorely wanted. Now, obviously, there's only certain people here that know who I am and what I'm like. I'm not saying confrontational, but I'm very bold. So whatever is on my mind, I just say it. I'm just very honest in regards to myself. And I think I get that from my mother, or rather from my family, because they're just very outspoken. And being a 16-year-old naive little kid that I was at that time, instead of taking advice, saying, oh, take it slowly, you don't have to tell your family just now that you become a Muslim, just step by step, just break it down to them gently. And I go, yeah, that's a good idea. And then I went home that same night, because Mum, I'm a Muslim. And then my mum goes, what are you talking about, you're a Muslim? No, you're not a Muslim. I go, yes, I am a Muslim. He goes, no, you're not. He goes, what are you talking about? I got a ticket from the car, and now you're telling me that you're a Muslim. What's happening with this day, man? What's going on? And I goes, well, this is what I'm going to do. And time was going on where it was getting a bit harder. It was getting really, really hard, because there was a battle of ideologies between two houses, which it shouldn't be like that. But unfortunately there was. Even me myself, I was making mistakes, and I've should have dealt with it in the right situation. But being naive, young at that time, I didn't know any better. So I was very fiery, and I was telling my mum, no, look, this is a good way, etc. And she was having none of it. You know, she even, you know, came to a point where she stopped me praying in the house. So I goes, okay then, I'll pray outside then. He goes, no, because people will know that you're Muslim. Alright, they'll go on, just do it in the corner there then. So that no one knows. Alright, just do it quietly then, and don't make a scene. So I was going through, you know, it was back and forth until eventually, unfortunately, I got kicked out of my house. But alhamdulillah, Allah always provides. And that if you make one step to Allah, Allah makes many steps to you in ways that you cannot imagine. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that those who fear Allah, those that have taqwa, Allah will provide for them from ways that they can never imagine. So you think, what's happening? Why am I not getting this, or why am I not doing? But Allah has a plan for you, and He will do it in the best way that He knows best. And so that's what I had to do. I had to take my test. Alhamdulillah, there was a lot of brothers that supported me. One brother, he had a home, so I was staying there for a while till I got myself a job and got myself on my feet. My family were very shook up. Actually, this was probably the biggest slap in the face, because not only were they raised upon Christianity, like I said, they were missionaries. They used to go out and spread the word of Christ. So for someone now in their hub, now speaking out and saying, no, this is not actually the case, Islam means submission, and this is what Jesus really taught, was really, really a big setback for them. And even to this day, some of them, they're not taking it so easily. But alhamdulillah, my immediate family, they took it well, eventually, and they accept me for who I am. And now as you see me now, I'm doing what my family are doing, but from the opposite, which is trying to let people know about Islam and how they can get that peace and tranquility that they're looking to find. And ladies and gentlemen, me becoming Muslim, even though it was at a young age, me becoming Muslim isn't or wasn't a fad. And as I mentioned before, there are around between 10 to 100,000 people becoming Muslim every year amongst the demographics scale, from different ethnicities, different religions, both genders, different ages. Not long ago, I met someone that became a Muslim at 85 years old. 2 years ago, he's 87 now, 85 years old. 85 years old, he became a Muslim. And now he looks so happy and so humble. It's amazing how much the way of life that God has prescribed for you can do wonders on your life. So it's not a fad, ladies and gentlemen. No, rather the reason why people pick Islam, or the reason me personally, I can speak for myself, is because it's the most rational way of life to live. From what I examined, beyond reasonable doubt, Islam is the most rational way of life to live. Because if one thinks about it to themselves, and if they ponder, and Allah always says, if they look within themselves, they ponder, and always keep going to the Quran. Because Allah will always have it mentioned, that if they ponder within themselves, they will see signs clearly showing evidence that there is a creator. Even through logical inference, we know that something cannot come from nothing. No. What comes from nothing is nothing. What comes from something is something. We don't know anything to come out of nothing. So in regards to the universe, we know that came from something. We know that came from something. We know that every cause has a purpose, has an effect. The universe has an effect, therefore has a cause. We know from the design of the universe how immaculate it is and how precise. And in regards to its minute details, how Allah has made every single species at that particular place, at that particular time, perfect for that particular welfare. Meaning that He's given the sustenance that it needs for them to live and for them to carry on their day-to-day lives. And not only that, but in regards to the precision, Dr. Fred Heinstrip from Oxford University, he said that if you was to look at the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, if you look at the precision of the earth from the sun to close to the sun or away from the sun, and that it's right at a specific place, minute place where earth can be sustained. And if you look at many other things which are minute, they go to the mathematical equation of 10 to the power of 10. That's 10 with 126 zeros. Now, who lives their life like that? No one lives their life like that. So it couldn't be just by chance. And Brother Adam Dean, who was here on Monday, he explained it well in regards to the rationality of there to be a creator. So now there's a creator. There has to be a knock on the door. We know He's there, but what does He want from us? So He sent prophets and messengers. He sent prophets and messengers to let us know what He wants from us, and that is to worship Him and Him alone. And from Adam to Moses to Abraham to Noah and to all of these great people, and they're not just fairy tales. These people have been recorded in history, including Muhammad bin Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that they've said the same message. They said the same message, which was to worship one God and one God only, and to not ascribe partners to Him. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was the last and final prophet and messenger, was known historically to be the most trustworthy person at his time, to the extent where even the enemies would trust him by leaving their belongings with him when they went on an expedition. That he was even in the past known as one of the, number one most influential man in history due to his status. Because not only was he a prophet, he was perfect in all of his roles. Being a father, being a military man, being a leader in a religious community. Every single role that you see him be, he excelled in it. And he was bestowed the miracle that at that time and to this time shakes the world, which was the Quran. And this is what you will find many people amongst, all of the Anbiya, they will be given a sign to show that they're a prophet, because anyone can say they're a prophet, but obviously it requires proof, which was the Quran. And this Quran, ladies and gentlemen, that he was bestowed upon, being someone who couldn't read or write, was a linguistic miracle. in a sense that their whole civilization, and even so, some of them, their whole livelihood, because they were poets, some of them were. Some to the extent that they would get bowed down to due to their status, was based on language and how they express themselves. So a person, Muhammad peace be upon him, who could not read or write, coming out with the Quran, which was a linguistic and literary miracle, shook them at that time. Completely shook them. Not only that, the Quran, it had, and still does, has scientific signs to show that anyone at that time who couldn't have known it at that time, the logic then goes back to the Creator. Because obviously the Creator would know best, so therefore the Creator wouldn't tell you about what He created. And 1,400 years ago you have things like the human embryo that was in there, the stages of the womb, the seas, the two sea salts, the mountains shaped like pegs, so that the earth is stabilized. Historical facts in the Quran are mentioning Pharaoh. Pharaoh, you know, like my people go, Pharaoh, Moses, that Allah saved his body when he drowned, so that he could be a sign for people to reflect. And other historical facts in this miraculous book. Not only though of that, but it shows logical inference, because the book shows that it has the logical explanation for a creator. It doesn't come out with God who is a elephant with 40 arms, etc. It doesn't come out with anything like that. No, rather it says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Say, He is God, and He is one. He is eternal, He begets not, nor is He begotten, and there is none like unto Him. That's logical. That makes sense. For anyone to logically perceive that there's a creator, it makes sense for Him to be one. It makes sense for Him to be one. Why? Because as a creator, He is unique. You can't have two infinite entities. It only makes sense for one infinite entity. Another infinite being is illogical, because He has to be unique. And only finite beings can be divisible. It's logical. He cannot have a spouse, or a child, or a gender. Because, one, his uniqueness would then be void. And two, because it shows dependence on his lineage, which is free from God. He can't be partitioned into different roles, because finite beings can be partitioned and divided. Rather, an infinite being cannot be partitioned and divided. So you don't have a God for the rain, or God for the sun, or etc. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't lapse in regards to His control of the universe. He doesn't lapse whatsoever, and that He can control the heavens and the earth without any need for anyone, nor have any difficulty in it. So we wouldn't need any sleep, He wouldn't slumber, nor would He need enough food or drink. Rather, Allah is free from this, because being your creator, He wouldn't need to be needy, as human beings are needy. So with all of these logical things that fit within the paradigm of Islam, you see people becoming Muslim day by day. And the statistics show that the ratio is more females than it is males. Which isn't really surprising, because in this society we have statistics showing that 1 out of 4 women suffer from domestic violence. 1 out of 4 women suffer in domestic violence. that in the UK alone, 160 women are raped every day. And that 74% of men would report an injured dog to the RSPCA, but only 50% would report a battered woman to the police. So with this society projecting the image of women, it shows what they think of women. Where in Islam, we're all equal in the sight of God. Yes, we have different roles, of course. In essence, a man is not a woman, and vice versa. However, we're all equal. And that the blood of a Muslim is sacred amongst us. If anything, Islam and Muslims, being Muslim, you're not just a group, you're not just a person belonging to a religion, no. You are amongst the biggest family in the world. 1.6 billion to be in fact. 1.6 billion. So Islam shows that equality there. And not only does it preach about it, it shows through it through essence. When you're praying, side by side, no one has the right, or no one is shown who is higher in status. Rather, you're all equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're all equal in the sight of God. In the pilgrimage, you're all as men dressed as white. And no one can tell whether a person is the head of a big firm to a person who is a janitor. No one can tell the difference. And it doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is your sincerity to follow what is right from your Lord, to believe in that, and to be steadfast upon it and to call upon it. And once you do that, and once you see that, and once you know about that, that's when you will start to see things work in your life day by day, not only being successful in this world, but also in the hereafter. In the hereafter. I've hoped you've enjoyed what I've presented. Anything wrong that I've said is from my own mistakes and from Shaitan. Any good that's come from this is only be from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Good night.